excited to have you on board. Well, as you've been speaking about employability, we would want to talk to you about on that particular topic. So, in today's time, students opt for higher education in order to kind of give weightage to their career, to make their career, but the reality is very different. So, what do you think? What is causing the gap?
No, the gaps probably are in the areas of skills, the skill sets that one possesses. So therefore, my understanding would be at the undergraduate level, one should have good subject skills, domain skills. That's extremely important. Having said that, he should have good reasoning skills, good analytical skills, good arithmetic skills, then of course the interpersonal skills and so on, and good, of course, good communication skills. Now when you get into post-graduation, you are getting into specialization. Whereas undergraduate education is generic, the postgraduate education becomes specific. Now, so there are specializations in which you get into at the postgraduate level. So again, the domain skills that you are looking at the postgraduate level is extremely important. The other skills that one acquires during the undergraduate program are only honed to be a little better at the postgraduate level. But still, when he gets into an employment, depending on which sector he gets into, he will most certainly need training, on-the-job training. So if the industry expects that all that training also needs to be, or if the skills that are required, for example, from an IT industry, are to be given at the undergraduate or the postgraduate level, or if, let's say, the manufacturing skills that are required to be given at the undergraduate, the postgraduate level, or even within manufacturing, if one is looking at automobiles, there's different skill set is required. If someone is looking at aerospace industry, skills are different. If someone is looking at the high-end, automated environment, then skill sets are required, different. And therefore, a lot of on-the-job training is a must. Whereas there is a gap between the number of graduates being produced or the postgraduates being produced to the available number of jobs. There seems to be a problem area. So every industry would probably look at the best, and they would also probably get the best from the lot that they eventually test and so on and select. Now that is again because of heavy automation that has come into our manufacturing or IT or whichever sector you talk about, and people preferring the undergraduates, training them a little, and then putting them on the job. And when you look at the same functional requirement from a postgraduate, of course he has little better domain knowledge skills, but he will probably demand more salary and probably demand a better fit into the kind of employment that he is looking at. Now when you look at all these factors, your employment markets must evolve to absorb this kind of changes. Whereas the employment sector has itself been mutating into different forms and different dimensions, the available student force seems to be not up to the level, because again the institutions would probably come back, or the industries would probably come back and say that we are changing at such a rate, and the education has been stagnant at certain point of time, the requisite skills are not being given. probably this is a little unfair comment to make. No university in this world will ever guarantee a job. A university's job is not to guarantee a job. Its function, main function, is to create a citizen who has good domain skills, good understanding of the environment, good skills, life skills, and the other hands-on skills that are required. I mean, today's paradigm has completely changed. Both institutions, students, parents, and everyone is looking at what would be the placement 3 years from now or 4 years from now when a student gets into an institution. Now that probably is not correct way of looking at things. A certain amount of mapping must be done with the industry, look at their requirements, and the curriculum keeps changing in that fashion. But to expect everything to happen within the university's four walls so that there is a ready-made product who fits into an industry is not possible. So a student or a university must provide enough opportunities for this to happen. So every year there must be a committee, there must be a team of academics who review the curriculum, look at the industry, look at the outside world, the changing scenario, what kind of new courses are required, and make appropriate changes within the curriculum. That is the first part. Now, innovation comes out of this, and a lot of startups have actually come out of this. A drone that you see today is something that has come out of these kind of labs. All that I'm saying is provide as many facilities as possible for students to learn on their own, experiment their ideas and so on, start making, fabricating new things and so on. Provide them that facility and let them experiment. All that the teacher must do is a little bit of hand-holding and provide some team-based things so that the ideas are streamlined. Now the third method that's possible is there are several third-party content providers. For example, online content providers like SchoolGuru does something. There are many others. There is Coursera kind of platforms available, LMS available. There is Udemy. There are almost 60 different platforms available worldwide, and some of them provide domain specific content, some of them provide content which is aggregated from different sources, so on. Now all the curriculum, wherever the flexibility is available, wherever the autonomy is available, these people must introduce at least one such course, build it seamlessly into the curriculum, and let the students pass an online test conducted by the parent organizers. For example, Coursera has a collection of content from different universities across the world, the best of them, and the best of the faculty have participated in creating that content. So the students must be exposed to this kind of content, to interact with these kind of people at specific times and so on. Everything comes at a price, but the university, the institutions, they also have raised the fees. They charge on different counts, and if they can build it into the curriculum, nothing like it. So universities must look beyond a classroom kind of teaching. There are many experiments happening, a flipped classroom, and so many things are happening, but these basic ideas must germinate into every classroom, every university, and that's how things carry on. And finally, the universities must create an environment where the students can interact with their peers outside their university. Today, hardly any interaction happens. It only happens during some social kind of thing at the end of the year, where some students are invited. Most of the time, that also is limited to only the institutional student population. So, by allowing technical seminars, where students participate between different institutions, where your students are encouraged to go out, where outside guys are encouraged to come in, the same thing happening with the faculty, and new ideas can come out, so that's the way to go in order to improve the employability.
Learning by doing and earning while learning. So these are very powerful concepts. So how do you think these concepts can be implemented in the system so that it can kind of empower students?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good concept. Learning by doing. I have talked about experiential learning and fabrication lab, and where innovation ideas can come in, and one can experience what they learn back in the lab and so on. So that's learning by doing, and most of the skills are acquired that way. I mean, there are several sectors where only learning by doing happens even today. All skill education is sector specific. For example, you have automobile is a sector, you have construction is a sector, entertainment is a sector, and so on. Now, if you look at the entertainment industry, there are several skills which are required before the screen, and there are several skills which are required behind the screen. Now, electronics and entertainment are nicely merging together. In fact, one drives the other. There is a lot of development that has taken place within electronics that actually functions for driving the electronics industry, and the other way around. Okay? The requirements within the entertainment industry drive the electronics to come out with different ideas and so on. So there are several skills which are required. The performing arts, and probably that skill is before the screen, in front of the screen, and behind the screen there are several skills that are essentially operating the equipment, understanding the equipment, understanding the lighting, understanding the all those, the stage, the relationship between the audience, the stage, and things like that. And for example, you look at any event that's organized today, there's so many cameras which are operated through booms and so on. And that boom operating also is a skill, and a lot of training is required in order to do these skills properly. Otherwise, they can cause damage on the, at the event. Now, are there schools which teach these kind of skills? Today, probably no. So, it's all on the job training. People come there, they do all odd jobs, and then they do this as well. And over a period of time, they gain expertise, and probably that's learning by doing. And in the earlier days, if you see, there used to be a producer, there used to be an assistant producer, and assistant director, and things like director, assistant director, assistant to assistants, and so on. They all used to learn on the job. So coming out from there, we need to introduce a part of that into our curriculum, where you provide the necessary facilities and let them learn by doing. Now, if you look at the gross enrollment ratio in this country, it's about 24 today. at the higher education. At the primary level, you just have about 97, 98, which means out of all eligible children, 97 to 98 they go to school at the primary level. When you come down to secondary education, it becomes 64, which means so many people have dropped out. And when you go to higher education, it means 12th and beyond and so on, it becomes 24. So still many more have dropped out. Now why does this happen? For two reasons. One is they don't have the money to sail through the education, or conversely they also have to support their families apart from supporting themselves. So that so then the result is they can't get into a college, they can't get into a regular education, all that happens. Now in this kind of scenario, there are several people who perforce get into a job and they have to earn to live, and in their spare time they also get into some distance learning, online learning, or maybe go to colleges which run in the evening, which run in the night, schools which run in the night, and so on. So in some way this is earning while learning. This has become a necessity because there are several reasons for this. One is economic, and the second reason is the kind of education that is happening today is probably not something that many people like. I mean, they want to do something else and they don't want to get into this, college where you're taught accounting, you're taught business, you're taught all those things, the standard curriculum. They probably have ideas of learning photography, they have ideas of learning becoming a great singer or a great musician or an actor or all kinds of things which are not in the not something that they can easily acquire. Wherever it is available, it's prohibitively expensive and therefore they cannot do it. For example, Whistling Woods is where they teach many of these skills, but it's very expensive. So how many people can do it? So therefore people will have to work in order to look after themselves, make some money, and then invest into learning and so on.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you.
It was a very, very, enriching session. I really loved talking to you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. My pleasure.